break, you have had the opportunity to speak with some of the speakers and certainly to get some more information. I want to remind everyone at your tables, it is absolutely critical for you to have your questions prepared, because when we go into Q&A, that is really where you can ask directly questions through your table facilitator from the panel. And speaking about panel, we have been joined by someone during the break that truthfully is not going to need much introduction, because everybody in Calgary knows this gentleman. But welcome Mario Toneguzzi, who is sitting at the end there, and then I'll give him a proper introduction a little bit later on. But we're very fortunate that Mario has been able and willing to join us today and to bring a personal perspective to what we're discussing. So we are going to continue, and I don't want to cast a dark cloud, but our partners at Alberta Human Services have asked me to share an extremely important message with all of us. And so tomorrow is a day that has been named the National Day of Mourning. So I want you to think about what I'm going to say in the next sentence or two in the light of what every single speaker so far has said, starting with Eric and certification and technology, and with Sean about probably very soon upcoming certification in supply chain and logistics, and with Joel when he was talking about horticultural and landscape. The reason that tomorrow, April 28th, is the National Day of Mourning, it's because this is a day that is dedicated to remembering all of those that have been injured, have become ill, or have lost their lives on the job or due to a work-related tragedy. Would we want a technologist who is not certified and who causes a dramatic accident on the workplace site? So think about this. Safety, going home in the same condition we arrived at work, is so critical. And every single speaker somehow has mentioned the need to have that knowledge, have that expertise, have that qualification. Let's be somber for a minute. In Alberta, 125 friends, colleagues, co-workers were injured or fell ill on the job last year. I don't know about you, that's way too much. Should not happen. And it's our hands to prevent that. We all have a role to play, and safety comes first, always, and every single speaker here is mentioning it one way or the other. So I really want us all to take 1 minute, think about that, think about the role that we can play as we change careers, as we learn new skills, as we apply our skill set in new work environments. It is our responsibility towards each other as friends and colleagues and members of the society to make sure we all go home safe. So, bio-industries. I don't know about you, but when I started hearing the word bio some years ago, I had Star Trek visions. because it was go where boldly go where no one else has gone before. And then all of a sudden, the going arrived, and we are now in a position of saying that careers in the bioindustry sector is an opportunity for those of us who do not have a scientific PhD. You don't have to be a molecular scientist to have a rewarding career in the biosector. So our good friends at BioAlberta and nationally at BioTown Canada have really been fantastic partners and have agreed to come and talk to us about the biosector. Patrick Wu is going to join us in a second. He is the Membership and Partnership Manager at BioAlberta, so has come to us from Edmonton, and we really appreciate it, Patrick. He graduated with a Master's of Biomedical Technology from UFC. He has a Bachelor's of Health Science, also from UFC. And he's been part of the Calgary teams in the International Genetically Engineered Machines competition at MIT. But he's going to tell us how we can have careers in the biosector without having that kind of credentials. And that is the deal that Patrick and I made, because I said, I'm not going back to medical school. And he said, you don't have to. Anyway, Patrick is passionate about promoting biotechnology and synthetic biology. And of course, he's going to be sharing with us the various opportunities that the sector offers. So Patrick, I'm holding you to your word, and I'm handing you the microphone.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Well, that's not a lot of pressure on me in any capacities, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to come up here today to talk to you guys about what you might be able to do in the life sciences space. But I guess just as a preface, just kind of telling you guys what we do, so you're not wondering why this random kid is up here talking to you guys about biology. I'm with BioAlberta, as Nicole said. BioAlberta is a private not-for-profit industry association acting as a central voice and organizing hub for the life sciences. What that actually means is that we provide advocacy for the life sciences. We have about 140 different companies across all of Alberta focused on the life sciences industry. They all have concerns and they all have issues and policies or how they're trying to grow their businesses, and we try and collectively gather all of their issues and concerns and present them to the Alberta government on their behalf. On a more national level, I'm also here partially representing BioTown Canada, which is a nonprofit national organization for human resources, skills development, and labor market research in the Canada bioeconomy. So BioTown Canada is focused on the whole country, and us as the industry association for Alberta focuses on Alberta. BioTown Canada gave me a couple slides to talk about on their behalf. They weren't able to make it to this presentation today and this event today, so I'm just really hoping that I'm not going to grossly misrepresent them as the time goes on, but we'll see what happens. Well, I'll try not to. So when I'm talking about life sciences, this is a bit faded out, but the idea behind life sciences is not just health. In the red sector there it says biohealth, but you're looking at things like pharmaceuticals, medical devices, therapeutics, molecules, and things like that. That's kind of what most people kind of traditionally think of when they think biotechnology in this space. But life sciences, when we say life sciences at BioAlberta, we're focused on something much greater than that. We're focusing on things like bioenergy, the green section of this diagram here, things like bioethanol production, biofuel production, biodiesel, biogas, also bioindustrial products, so materials, polymers, coatings, bioplastics, all those kinds of things. Biomass conversion into new materials is something that it's also of particular interest. And then agricultural biotechnology, which is that last section there, which isn't focused on human health, but it's more animal health, plant health, livestock, genetics, vaccines, nutritional supplements, natural health products. Everything in this area and then some are what we can collectively refer to as the life sciences. There's also other companies in Alberta that aren't necessarily on this chart. We have environmental monitoring, biosensors for arsenic in water, for example. There's a company in Calgary doing something like that, which is also really, really cool. So I guess the big story that we want to say is when people think there's the biotechnology sector, actually I think a lot of people don't think there's a biotechnology sector in Canada at all. But one story that we really do like to talk about is Ebola. Well, maybe you don't like to talk about Ebola, but never mind. The idea is more of the Ebola vaccine that is currently being tested right now. So if you all are probably familiar with the Ebola epidemic that started spreading around West Africa a couple of years ago, and Canada actually has a number of facilities dedicated to researching incredibly dangerous pathogens. So for those of you who aren't really necessarily familiar with biosafety levels, there's 4 biosafety levels in Canada. Biosafety level 1 is like lab strain, harmless bacteria that will never really necessarily make people sick in any way if you accidentally lick a plate for some reason. If you're actually more like, this is lab strain E. coli, where most of its genetics are completely knocked down. In fact, it's actually much more likely that you're going to kill the bacteria that you're trying to grow for your research than the other way around. But then you have biosafety level 2, which you're looking at things like Pseudomonas aeruginosa, which actually can be pathogenic to you if you, again, are incredibly careless. And why would you be in the lab at any point if you're going to do things like that? But most universities have biosafety level 1 and biosafety level 2 labs. When you get to biosafety level 3, you're now looking at more like pathogens that actually are capable of spreading between people if they get sick. HIV, things like that are level 3 organisms, I believe. There's actually a facility in Suffield. Suffield is a small little town somewhere between Calgary and Lethbridge if you drive along the highway. It's a military base that is testing chemicals and biological facilities. I got a chance to tour it when I was in university one year. It's a really interesting facility. I never got to step into the lab, but we were hearing about how people actually go into this level 3 lab, and so you have to strip down, you have to take a decontamination shower, and then you have to put on this special suit with its own air circulation, and make sure all the labs are negatively pressured so that any air that is being circulated around the building, air from the outside goes into the lab instead of air from the inside carrying possibly dangerous pathogens will be blown back out into the environment. And then when you're leaving, after you finish doing all your experiments, you have to take the suit off, take a full body decontamination shower, take special decontamination gel and rub your eyeballs and your various things with it, and this is why I will never work in that lab. It's an arduous process. It's a really, really cool facility, but that's a biosafety level 3 lab. There aren't very many of them in Canada. There's one biosafety level 4 lab, I believe, and it is somewhere out in Winnipeg, because I guess it's Winnipeg and we don't really worry too much about that. But that's where this biosafety level 4 lab is. And the biosafety level 4, I can't even imagine what kind of precautions you would have to take, because you're now looking at incredibly, incredibly dangerous, fast-spreading pathogens like Ebola virus, like the newest strains of flu that come out every year that are trying to develop a vaccine for. All of that's being done in the National Microbiology Center in, somewhere near Winnipeg, but not actually in Winnipeg. So this was a vaccine that was developed somewhere around 2012, I believe, and by 2014, it seemed like it was a promising enough candidate that Merck decided to take the license off of the Public Health Agency of Canada and start developing this as a vaccine and start doing clinical trials with it. As of January 2016, this is actually one of the very few, if not the first, Ebola vaccine that's going through phase 3 clinical trials in West Africa right now. So this actually might be a story where Canada has actually produced the first Ebola vaccine in the world. So we'll see what happens to it. You'll never really know. More locally around Alberta, there are also other stories in the life sciences that we think have been really interesting in recent news. Gilead is a large-ish pharma company that has recently opened up a 3-phase manufacturing plant in Edmonton. This is an investment of about $2-3 million into this facility. And it created about 200 jobs for highly educated individuals, research scientists, and people to manufacture some drugs in Western Canada, which is really not a common thing to hear, because most of the headquarters for large pharmas in Canada are all located in Toronto and Montreal. So this was really unique to have a place like this in Edmonton to start manufacturing some drugs for this large pharma. But it's not just the large pharmas that we're really interested in. There's stories from smaller pharmas. A startup company, a family business called Fedora Pharmaceuticals, focuses on developing drugs to fight antibiotic resistance. So you know about the stories of superbugs and how if you keep exposing environments to antibiotics, bacteria will eventually evolve to combat them. Some forms of bacteria are capable of actually breaking down the antibiotic by having an enzyme that digests it. It's called a beta-lactamase. And so Fedora Pharmaceuticals has developed a beta-lactamase inhibitor. It stops the protein from working so the bacteria can't destroy the antibiotics that's trying to destroy them. So you're basically playing this arms race, Cold War thing going on with your bacteria. But this has caught a particular attention with Roche, one of the large pharmas internationally, but they paid special attention to what Fedora was doing, and they've signed a recent deal to co-develop this particular type of drug further. And potentially they may be able to secure $750 million of partnering and royalties, which is going to be, I think, the largest deal ever in Canadian history for pharmaceuticals. So that's very exciting too. But Alberta is not all about drugs. It's also about industrial products, like I was saying. So Enerchem is a company that has partnered with the city of Edmonton and Alberta Innovates Energy and Environment Solutions to open up a plant and it'll begin operations hopefully by 2017. And what it's going to do is it's going to take a good portion of the city's generated waste and use it as a feedstock in order to produce methanol. And so it would theoretically be able to boost Edmonton's waste conversion rate by somewhere between 20–30% more than it already is, which is also very exciting to see. So fingers crossed to see whether or not they follow through with it and how much methanol they can actually produce from city waste. In every other year, in partnership with Deloitte, BioAlberta actually does a State of the Industry report. So our last one was released in November of 2015. You'll notice here that all my stories here have been about Edmonton, and that's mostly just because Edmonton takes up a large portion, or most of the small companies are located in the Edmonton area. And also because the Edmonton area tends to have a lot of small places like Leduc, St. Albert, Sherwood Park. I don't think they like being called small towns, but to me, as a person who grew up in Calgary and in Edmonton, it's pretty much small towns. But they have a lot of companies out there that also focus on biotech-related things. You'll notice here that a particular interest, I wanted to bring your attention to the sectors of the industry. So if I'm trying to point at that thing, the sectors of the industry, and I'm not going to be able to reach that one, but the medical devices and medical technologies are actually a prominent component of the life sciences industry here in the province. So for those who don't really know necessarily what medical technologies are, it's things like wearable technologies to measure hearts, implantation, transplant stuff, pacemakers. You might hear tomorrow from Orpix Medical Technologies, which is a medical device company here in Calgary, and they do insoles for people with diabetes, because there tends to be problems with your peripheries when you get diabetic. So that's something that's really interesting, but you also see a lot of companies who are focused on the drug production, agriculture, health IT, industrial technology. There's a lot of places in Red Deer and Drayton Valley that are focused on converting waste biomass, so straw, hay, things that can't be used for much else, and trying to make it into a feedstock for fuels. So these are all just very diverse things that the bioindustrial space and the life sciences space entail. Alberta, we've estimated in Alberta there's over 200 companies that are focused on the life sciences and capacity. We're an industry association with 140 members. We admit that we haven't found everybody yet, and they all do need that kind of help. They're very good. The life sciences in general is a very innovative space in health, environment, industrial products, as you can kind of hear from some of these stories. I can tell you a lot more other stories, but I don't have the time right now. The estimated revenue generated from all these companies, though, is about $1 billion. So not $2 billion like horticulture, but somewhere up there along that same vein. And estimated about 18,000 jobs in high-paying, knowledge-intensive spaces. People who are educated in PhDs, masters, and things like that. 18,000 jobs are available for them, and it captures this kind of academic research and keeps it within Alberta. Another perk that I didn't write up on here is that the life sciences industry is, relatively speaking, more recession resistant because it doesn't really focus too much on oil and gas at all. It's a separate industry in and of itself, and especially now that the Alberta government has been so keen on creating new jobs and diversifying the economy, this might be an opportunity for life sciences to step up and say, hey, we are here, we've been here for 30 years, and maybe you should actually start paying attention to us for once. Wouldn't that be nice? In 2013, BioTown Canada, so it's not just about us, it's BioAlberta now, we're not the only ones to do surveys. In 2013, BioTown Canada did a labor market survey asking employers who had brought in newcomers, people who have immigrated, for example. They asked these employers who had brought in new people and just asked them how that's affected their businesses. 52% of them said that it's improved the innovation in their company. 43% have said that it's improved productivity from these newcomers to their company. And 29%, most interestingly, is they said that they now have better access to foreign markets. Because I believe it's a lot easier to do business in China when you have someone who can actually speak Chinese. It's just a guess, but this is something that is of very particular interest for people there. And the labor market survey also went on into more detail, kind of asking these companies, what are you finding as are missing in your skill sets in your companies? These kinds of trends are actually very in line with what we found in our State of the Industry report locally in Alberta too. So things like sales, so if you have a product, how do you go and sell it to enough people to make revenue? Marketing, how do you access these foreign markets? How do you get your products into through the regulatory processes, through the FDA, through those things, and that's regulatory affairs. And then quality assurance, how do you make sure that your product is actually done well enough so it won't accidentally, kill people? That would be nice too. So these are all the fields and opportunities that are there in biotech, and like Nicole said, that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be a PhD in biochemistry or molecular biology, whatever it is, sales, marketing, regulatory stuff. There's opportunities for people who have experiences in there to come in with business acumen. We find that a lot of small companies, the small startup companies here, usually started off as a spin-off of a university research lab. You have really intelligent PhDs, they know everything there is to know about this molecule, but if you ask them about business acumen, they don't like to admit it, but they do need that kind of assistance. And so a lot of them end up hiring a CEO that has really no background in medicine at all, but they do have background in startup companies and how do you commercialize. And the principles behind all of that stuff is very transferable between those kinds of fields. So as a potential alternative career path for people who are interested maybe in joining the life sciences space, there are people who are trained, for example, in biology, or they used to be doctors or nurses in a different country, and now they're finding that when they come over here to Canada, that recertifying themselves as a pain in the neck or butt or other body part. It takes about 3 to 5 years in order to get recertified, I believe, as a doctor, for example. So during that time, it doesn't mean that just because you're not certified in those spaces in Canada, it doesn't mean that you've lost or forgotten any of those skills, but it does mean that you could theoretically transfer these skills to a biotechnology sphere. if you're a company that is looking into doing a medical device to bring to hospitals, it's a benefit to them to have somebody who knows internally how a hospital works to some degree. Those are the kinds of skills that people are very interested in doing. And BioTown Canada has a program called the BioSkills Recognition Program that actually lets people who are interested in participating or like in the life sciences industry to check their skills profile and see whether or not it actually is a good fit for this particular industry. So the BioSkills Recognition Program comes in a couple phases. So the first one is a skills inventory profile. So what they do is they ask for your work history, what are your experiences, what is your educational background, where have you worked before, and the BioTown Canada actually maps these skills to a profile online. And then this profile will actually go to an industry professional to vet and make sure that there's no horribly large gaping holes in your skill set. And then if you get approved by the industry professionals, you get a label called BioReady. You are now pre-screened for a biotechnology job with BioTalent because someone's already kind of looked over your credentials once already, and a lot of companies can take this and say, okay, someone's already looked over it. They're not like horribly underqualified to participate in this kind of industry, and so this is a good first step for them. It saves them a lot of money. It saves them a lot of time of having HR people look over all of them individually each and every time. But if you see this BioReady status, it's already kind of done for you to some degree. A lot of the large featured employers of BioTown Canada are all participating in this BioReady program, and so they are ready to accept candidates who have gone through this pre-screening process. I was told recently, I believe last Friday from BioTown Canada, that while this used to be a service that you had to pay for as a job applicant, it is now free. So, free is a wonderful word, and so I recommend that you go and give it a try and see how your skills match up to the needs of the industry in the area. Most of these companies are all based in Toronto and Montreal, but I've been informed that there are more companies that are starting to get interested in participating in this program across the country. So this is something that you might want to keep an eye on in the future if you are interested in the life sciences space. So thank you. We just wanted to bring your attention to the names of Rob Henderson and Mel Wong, who are the presidents of our respective associations. If you do have any questions related to the BioSkills Recognition Program, I can pretend to answer them for you here, but I honestly am not knowledgeable enough about the program to give you very specific answers to your questions. So please send an email to bioskills@biotown.ca if you do have any questions there. And if you have any questions about the industry as a whole in Alberta, feel free to contact me, actually. As much as Mel would love to have emails, he would probably just forward them to me anyway, so why have the middleman there? So my email address is patrick@bioalberta.com. Feel free to send me any questions if you guys have anything asking about what kind of companies are out here in Alberta and things like that. So I really appreciate the time today, and thank you very much.